Recording here.
Recording in progress.
That was interesting. I guess I've been plugged into the wrong spot. All right. Hello, dear Dharma friends. The days are getting short. So, I suppose I should do this every now and then. I am that which refers to itself often as Robert Beatty. This is a broadcast of the Portland Insight Meditation Community. Sitting to my left on my screen is the Honorable Jim Dalton. Venerable. I was at the center kind of late last night painting doors. It's looking so nice. Now along comes Omicron that will possibly delay our opening. It's kind of, you just don't know, do you? I could tell you one of my 6 jokes. Some of them do not bear telling in this kind of context, but this one I can. It's in old Russia. The rabbi had a habit of getting up at exactly 6 a.m. At 6:30, he left his home, walked across the square to the synagogue, and it was clockwork. It was precise, year after year. And one day he starts out the usual way. He leaves home he wakes up and his light comes on at exactly 6. He leaves home at 6:30 and he has this short walk. It's just a couple of minutes across the square. And one day he encounters the Cossack on his horse, the kind of local police guy. And the Cossack says, "Where are you going, Rebbe?" And the rabbi says, I'm going to the synagogue." No, that's not true. I blew it. Starting over. The rabbi is headed for the synagogue, and he says, "I don't know." "What do you mean you say you don't know where you're going? I have been watching you for more than 20 years. Every day you get up, your light goes on at 6. You leave the house at 6:30, you cross the square. Come on with me, you must be up to no good." And he takes him to jail, and he pushes him into the jail, and he goes back. His back hits the wall, and his bottom hits the little bed. And he says, "See, you just don't know." So we don't know. We did wake up this morning, and we do have this moment, and I do have a little story for us. I forget who wrote it. It's about Ajahn Chah, I think. Yeah. No, I'm not sure of that. Don't have the origin. Anyway, it goes like this. The story goes that once a cobra was so impressed with the gentleness of a monk who lived in a forest hermitage nearby that he asked to become his disciple. The monk agreed, and knowing that snakes can be quick-tempered, thought it appropriate to teach him metta, loving-kindness meditation. The cobra proved to be a good student, meditating regularly and becoming more good-natured as a result. One day, while basking in the sun, he noticed a woman nearby collecting sticks for the household fire. Rather than slither away or stand erect with his hood open so as to scare her, as had been his habit, he decided to remain where he was and radiate metta to the woman. She got closer and closer until she had collected enough sticks and then began looking around for something to tie them with. Seeing the cobra and mistaking him for a piece of vine, she picked him up by the tail, gave him a violent flick, wrapped him several times around the sticks, pulled them tight, and then tied him in a knot. Then she put the bundle on her head and walked home. When she got there, she untied the vine and threw it away. Battered, bent, and wincing with pain, the poor cobra made his way back to the hermitage and told the monk what had happened. "You tell me to cultivate metta, and this is what I get for it," he complained mournfully. The monk replied, "Just because you have metta doesn't mean you can't sometimes hiss." So let us find a comfortable upright posture. Something that is so familiar. In fact, in a way, this sitting becomes the foundation of our lives. It's from this stillness that everything radiates. Of course, the stillness isn't always stillness of body, but there is a stillness of mind and heart that we cultivate. And how about this morning? I think I'm going to emphasize stillness. And that from now till 7:45 here in the Pacific, put aside the coffee, the water, the scratching, the adjusting posture, and become a rock. Become like a rock. Maybe before launching into that, do any adjusting you feel like you want or need to do. A conscious rock. Tune in to the earth element in the body. Feel its denseness, density. Notice its temperature. The warmth and the coolness. Where is it particularly warm? Where is it cool? Where is the body manifesting the most life? The hands are always a good place to check because there's so much life there. In fact, there's so many nerve endings in the thumb. The same is true with the lips, the mouth, the tongue. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the teachings on mindfulness, in the instructions at the very beginning, the seeker finds their way to an isolated spot. Sitting comfortably upright, they place mindfulness before them. Abandoning grief and covetousness toward the world, which means abandoning the past and the future. Letting go of everything from the past and everything from the future. Becoming a rock. Noticing that the body breathes. It doesn't require to be breathed. It does it quite autonomously. Exactly the same way the heart beats without our help. And we can imagine this guidance is 2,600 years old. We can select in-breathing and out-breathing as our primary object, our home base. And the conscious rock stabilizes the mind by beginning with the beginning of a breath. Staying with it when you can, all the way through rising to fullness. All the way through the decline to the vanishing. Life has many facets, of course. The body breathes. Awareness can abide there. The mind can, and often does, maintain its own busyness. Thoughts arise, and it would appear we get lost in them. That which knows gets lost. But it's no problem, because mindfulness mysteriously awakens in the midst of wandering minds. And there's the usual list. The mind can become immersed in desire, wanting. I want this, I want this. Or, I don't want this, I don't want that. This is not what I want. Or it can fall into the trance of restlessness and agitation and worry. It can be rehashing old conversations or planning the day or worried about the future, rehearsing an old resentment. Or it can fall into sleepy dullness, a trance state of sloth and torpor. Or it can become doubtful, doubting yourself or the practice or the purpose. None of these are the least problem. That which we are is that which knows. And so we know the coming of the breath, the lifetime of the breath. conscious rock sits here. It has no interest in or attachment to its history. It hasn't the least concern for the future. It is very curious about breathing. The mystery of how a breath comes out of nowhere, rises to fullness, and then vanishes. This rock is not practicing to be aware for a better future. It's just here. It is of the nature to be awake. Each breath appears mysteriously. With thoughts are the same. Where do they come from? Where do they go? Is there really someone who thinks them, or do they think themselves? And so we rest back into the beauty of our being, into the mystery of being. And the mystery of this livingness is shot through or woven with love and compassion. Everything belongs. And it simply is that. Our task is perhaps to realize it. And let's be invited to use the cognitive capacity of the present moment, to remember a time in life. And here we notice history arises in the present moment. Was there a time when you held a baby and melted? Was there a time when a particular sunset or an exquisite flower pulled you hopelessly into the present moment? Remember, pull yourself together. Maybe there was some time when you were falling in love or walking the dog, when everything was fine. Why not cultivate that? And using the imagination again in the present moment. Remember how much loss, pain, sickness, suffering you've had in your life. Not to get lost in it, but to realize that you, just like everyone else, is worthy of extraordinary compassion. Right? Remembering that you walk in your life toward its ending. How can we be anything but loving and compassionate if we see ourselves clearly? And so this rock, this heavy object that's been here for thousands of years, breathes in and breathes out. and it's woven through with love and compassion. And so we abide in great ease. There's room for any wandering mind. There's room for any doubt or self-doubt. There's room for any and every mood. And there's nowhere to go. There's room for any emotions that occur, from elation to grief. There's room for anger. There's room for fear. For the rock that sits here awake, there is no time. There's only now. And it's a now of such great ease. Even if the mind is troubled with something, It's seen for what it is, thoughts. What a relief. And each breath comes as a brilliant invitation. Be here now. Just be here. With the contentment and safety of this moment. It is completely natural to open in compassion to our loved ones, our friends, our enemies, in fact, to all beings. We're all in the same boat. We're all striving to be happy and safe. And the boat is sinking. Which somehow opens up to great compassion and joy. In this very moment, let us be awake. Breathing in, breathing out. And as you're ready, bringing awareness into the eyes. Notice the intention that's required, and then letting the eyes open. And for those with intact vision, it's blurry and then it gets clear. And then there are little boxes, images in them. For those whose vision is interrupted or not functioning fully, there may be light, there may be shapes, or I suppose there could be just no change. Whatever the case, this moment is like this. There's still the body touching the chair. There's still the breathing. There's still the mood. It's such a relief to stop being somebody, isn't it? I'm not going to do any announcements. They're important and they're tedious and they disrupt the flow of gathering together. So if you have something you'd like to share, please do so. Jim, would you speak to me for a moment and let me know if I have sound?
Lock-like hand does not work well with the mouse.
Okay, I can hear you. Thank you. Jim just put in the chat, rocks don't need announcements. Right. Dear rocks, another century has gone by. Ain't life grand? There's a project for you, Birch. The Breathing Rock would be a lovely children's book on mindfulness. Ha. Yeah.
Morning, Sangha. Hi, Robert.
It's Birch. Hi.
Hi, yeah. I was wondering, can you just say a little bit about this morning around the nature of insight as part of this practice is not necessarily contradictory to what being present is, but how when we're tracking thoughts and processes and past and future and letting that all go, what's the understanding of insight in the context of the practice?
Mm-hmm. It's an important word because the Satipatthana practice tradition is translated into English as the Insight Meditation System. Portland is Portland Insight Meditation Community. And the insight is quite particular. And it's unfortunate because it contributes to the confusion. We often use insight to mean, well, I've had insight into this particular investment, or I've had insight into my psychological process of how my patterns are like this because I now understand what happened in my childhood or this trauma, and that's certainly an accurate use of that word, to have insight into oneself that way. But the insights in insight meditation are quite particular. There is insight into the Four Noble Truths. And there's sometimes something comes along, sometimes a moment comes along in which, well, let me go to it a different way. It's perhaps clearest with the three characteristics of existence. We live in profound delusion. We live, and the delusions are, as you've heard me say many times, the first delusion is permanence. We really think something's going to last. If we really believed everything was going, and we did it broadly, there'd be no war, there'd be no fighting each other over stuff, because none of it lasts. And so there's that delusion, then there's the delusion that it's possible to be satisfied. It's possible to reach some place in our life where, oh boy, I've arrived, I live in my gated community and I've got this and I've got that, and now I've arrived. And then there's this profound delusion, which is that there's a self. And that is so pervasive that it's almost insane to talk about it. And then through the preparation that we do through our practice and through cleaning up our moral and ethical behavior and being really examining our worldview, and then sometimes something happens which does not come in the usual channel. It's just a realization. It's oh, nothing lasts. And sometimes there's emotion when that happens, but most often it's a wonderful thing as a teacher to have a student come in and say, and it's usually with great wonder and quiet, nothing lasts. I get it. Or like I've spoken many times about the really big opening I had in my backyard last summer when there was the realization, all this poor me, ain't it awful? My life has always had this problem, one problem or another. Well, of course it did, because there's no way to be satisfied with the ordinary sense doors. They're unsatisfiable. Or there's the insight, everything's alive. I am part of everything. I am everything. I mean, in the Catholic world, it was, I am God. God and I are one. And of course, that was suitable for burning because that totally blows up the hierarchy. But those are the insights, are the insight of realization of our true nature. And then there's the insight into the Four Noble Truths that there is suffering. I mean, and not just the suffering of pain and loss and so on, but even pleasure is shot through with dukkha because it's impermanent. And then there's the realization that, that the suffering part of this is caused by something in me which is wanting something to be different. And it ends. Nirvana is a real phenomenon. It's not a phenomenon, it's the background of everything. Is that making sense? I wrote a poem a few years ago. I was on a retreat with Matt Flickstein and somewhere on the East Coast. It's under Robert. It was a time every day I walked, it was a half a mile gravel road to the county road. And I'd walked it twice at lunchtime, so 2 miles. And one day, I wasn't meditating. I was just walking. And something happened. But it wasn't something that happened to me. And afterwards I wrote this poem, which doesn't approximate it even, but it goes like this. Loose-limbed walking nowhere, gravel crunching, tree green meadow, sun honeysuckle, only now. Fecund blossoming awake, no one aliving is. Loose-limbed walking nowhere, gravel crunching, tree green meadow, sun honeysuckle, only now. Fecund blossoming awake, no one aliving is. And I don't know whether that was 2 seconds or 10 minutes. I do know that everything's alive. That's true. Everything is alive and interbeing. And this that thinks of itself as Robert comes out of that, but is not an entity. I'm a flower just like everybody else. Or I'm a wave on the ocean. And mostly I forget that, of course. But that's part of the flowering, is the forgetting.
Hey, Robert.
Hey, Michael.
May I share a poem with everybody this morning?
Sure.
This is called Kaboom. You can think of it this way. Nothing exists, you understand? I mean, not even nothing. And just like that, there's this big kaboom, and everything's created. Time, space, energy, mass, you name it. Okay, now it's much later, and you're all tucked in, alone in bed. Forget about broken or any crap of that kind. Your heart's been ripped to pieces like by some wild jungle cat. You find respite sometimes in sleep, it's true. But the moment you wake, I mean, even before you can take a breath, the pain is there and you're gone. That moment when the feeling's full on you, before you can stop or explain it away, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I want to say. Listen, in that moment, what you are feeling is all the pain being felt by everything in the universe. How could it be otherwise? That which springs from common seed must know the souls around it. You see what I'm saying? I'm saying the size of the feelings we experience is beyond comprehension. I'm saying it's amazing we haven't all spontaneously exploded. The chances for birth are slim at best. Have a little mercy.
Again, please.
You can think of it this way. Nothing exists. You understand? I mean, not even nothing. Then just like that, there's this big kaboom and everything's created. Time, space, energy, mass, you name it. Okay, now it's much later and you're all tucked in, alone in bed. Forget about broken or any crap of that kind. Your heart's been ripped to pieces like by some wild jungle cat. You find respite sometimes in sleep, it's true. But the moment you wake, I mean, even before you can take a breath, the pain is there and you're gone. That moment when the feeling's full on you, before you can stop or explain it away, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I want to say. Listen, in that moment, what you are feeling is all the pain being felt by everything in the universe. How could it be otherwise? That which springs from common seed must know the souls around it. You see what I'm saying? I'm saying the size of the feelings we experience is beyond comprehension. I'm saying it's amazing we haven't all spontaneously exploded. The chances for birth are slim at best. Have a little mercy.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Not only is the content of your poetry nourishing, but the way you embody it and present it is just yummy. Daria writes, beautiful, thank you. Kaboom. Kaboom. May we have a copy of Michael's poem. Is your poem digitized, Michael?
Robert, I'll send you a copy if that works, and you can send it out.
If it's okay with you, I will put it on the connections list. Oh, I can put it on my website. I'll put it on my blog, robertbeatty.com, and then look for blog at the top, or // blog. And if you'll send that to me, I'll put it up today, Michael. That feels nice. I'd like to have that poem on my blog.
Good morning, Robert. It's Joe.
Hi, Joe. There you are.
I just wanted to express that the craftsmanship, which is really an adequate word for individuals that can take words, encompass emotion and movement and spirit and joy and sorrow and silence and cacophony, and weave them into a small message that sends out and stirs life and spirit and joy and cacophony and sorrow in ourselves, is truly an art. It's truly a gift. And that was just so wonderful. And to have that kaboom happen. And when I listen to your poetry and Michael's poetry, or I read prose or poetry of others, and it lifts my spirit and my soul to a higher level of perception in this place, in this time that I'm at, and just fills my heart. It slows the world down. It gives me a different glimpse. And really, your response was perfect. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you for that connection with all things and that slowing down of life into right here, right now. And so that was wonderful. I just wanted to try to put words to express my appreciation for the poetry that you share, that you bring to Sangha, and especially for Michael's gift today. It just made my day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Hi, Larry. You just appeared. Lovely to see you. Quite a journey we're on, isn't it? Well, perhaps this is a fine spot to pause. Monday. I get my hair cut this morning. Big event. I would go much longer, but she has a better sense of what's appropriate. So shall we do our Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam? Before we go there, let's take a moment to look. To look from person to person. Very attractive rocks, I think.
Rock art.
Such beautiful human beings. Thank you all for coming, for making this be. So let's go out. May all beings receive all blessings. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May it be so, or it is thus. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Yafata. May the path of your heart open before you. Yafata. Yafata. See you soon, dear friends. May we all be safe.
Enjoy your haircut, Robert.